Hey guys, Unfrequented World. I can't believe I just did this. I just spent 15 minutes out here talking to you guys about what I want to do, the plan, and it didn't record. So I tried to show you guys that I spent all day working on the boat today. The bugs are absolutely horrible here in Northern Ontario right now. So I can't go metal detecting. I can't get out and do photography in the bush. So I had this idea that I would go up to Temagami and do a little documentary for you guys on another story that I did on the channel before, which was the My Bigfoot story, which is an absolutely true story from years ago when we went up to Rabbit Lake, which was a place I used to go all the time when we were kids and stay at my friend's camp. And I was 18 and we went hunting there. And my friend and his uncle went up on the mountain and camped out in a tent for the night. And his dad and I stayed at the main camp playing some cards. Brian might have had a couple beers. I wasn't old enough to drink and went to bed early, 10 o'clock, something like that. And Brian was in his bunk snoring, and I heard the best description I could come up with that for this thing was a woman being murdered right outside the cabin, like god awful, blood curdling, very powerful. You could feel it in your like you could feel the screams. I heard two screams. It went around the camp. It was just blood curdling, really. It was something I've never heard before that or since. And I've looked up all kinds of animals online, could never figure out what that was. And that would have been the end of it. Um, Except the next morning, Brian got up and told me, well, whatever you heard, it couldn't be as bad as what we heard 18 years ago when the four of us were up here hunting and we heard screaming like you wouldn't believe. The guys loaded their guns. We barricaded the door. And I'm trying to tell Brian that's what I heard last night. He just didn't really get it. We didn't even look for tracks or anything the next day because you know what? It wasn't like we said, "Hey, that was a Bigfoot." It was no, there was no such thing as Bigfoot. We didn't talk about things like that back in the day. It was just a weird occurrence. But there have been a lot of weird occurrences up at Brian's camp. He's had what he calls the man follow him through the bush, hunting, fishing. He sees him just off, in the bush line watching him. He's always got a red coat on. Brian is absolutely sure that it's just a native guy that lives up there. Brian will tell you, I bought this land off the natives, and there's probably a few of them that still live up here on the land. I don't think that's the case, but that's the way Brian views it, and he honestly believes that. Brian is a super tough Northern Ontario trapping. He's a mountain man. He's a breed of his own. Brian is, he doesn't scare easily, and he's just his own guy. He had a canoe go missing from there, probably a few years after that incident when I was 18, and I didn't go back up to the camp. We used to go up there all the time when we were kids. And I didn't go up there for 4 years after that. And my brother talked me into going back when his son was just a few years old. They wanted to take him up there and take him fishing and swimming, and I agreed to go. And that was the first time I went back up. And I've only been back to the camp maybe 4 or 5 times since then. As an adult, we have a guys' weekend where we go up on a long weekend. We do a bit of fishing, a bit of drinking, but I don't go outside at night. The guys, they don't take me seriously, but that scared the bejesus out of me. That was always a spooky place. And as kids, we used to get the feeling that somebody was watching us. In the evening, you'd have to wait until about the same time as it is right now. 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, it's starting to get dark out. And we'd grab our fishing lines and we'd head down a couple hundred yards from the dock through the bush. And there was a little creek come out there. And the pickerel would come in to feed. And we would go and stay till after dark and catch pickerel, fish pickerel from the shore. And we many times were freaked out, like, hey, there's somebody watching us. There's who's there? I remember we called out a couple times. My friend had brothers, and we used to assume, oh, they're following us, or they're going to pull a prank on us, or they're going to jump out and scare us. Nobody ever did. No one was there that we could find, but you had that feeling of being watched. This is the only place that I get that feeling. I mean, I go camping all over Northern Ontario. Lots of places I have to boat in, or 4-wheel miles, 20 miles into nowhere, camp out, and I don't have a problem doing that, but I do have a problem going back up to Brian's camp. Where I'm going with this is I would like to go up there and do an adventure to put some context to the story and show you guys the camp, show you guys the swamp in behind, just show you where this incident happened and how secluded it is with the drone, do some drone footage in that. But I can't find anyone who wants to go up there with me to do this, and quite honestly, I'm just too chicken shit to do it myself. So I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I'm trying to work up the courage. But there are a lot of stories that go with that place up there, including where I was going was Brian lost a canoe and didn't find it until many years later. When we went back in 2012, we had a guy's weekend up there, and he said, oh, by the way, I found the canoe. And he said it was miles up behind the camp. There's a lake up there. He said, I was walking around the lake moose hunting, and in a great big spruce tree, he said a 100-foot tall spruce tree, he said, there was my canoe. And it was hanging, 50 feet off the ground, tied up in this spruce tree. Well, who steals a canoe and puts it up in the tree? And Brian just says, well, somebody playing a prank. No, Brian, people don't do that. But Brian just kind of blows this stuff off as not that strange. Where I look at that as terrifying. So I would love to interview Brian and get his take on some of these things for you. And he would sit down and tell us these stories, and he has a lot of weird stories from up there. Weird stories. But I don't think he would do it for the camera because that's not Brian. He would just be like, it is what it is. It's natives who live here, and they don't want me going on their property. They sold me this piece of property. They want me to stay on this piece of property, or things like that. And that's what Brian sums it up as. So he doesn't look at it like it could be anything else. Where I wonder, because those sounds I heard that night, I've never been able to find an animal that sounds like that. And we did have another strange incident up there, which I mentioned in the other video. 2012, that weekend when we were up there, which I think was the last weekend that I had a guy's weekend up there. It's been a while. All the guys were downstairs drinking. My brother and I were going to get up to go fishing early the next morning, so we only had 2 or 3 beers, played some cards, and we went to bed about 1 o'clock. And I was looking out over the lake. I was at this end of the cabin. My brother was at the other end. We both had the windows open because it was very hot up there. And looking out over the lake, I saw this orange globe. I've never seen anything like that before or since. Just an orange floating globe moving under its own power. It wasn't drifting in the wind, didn't zigzag up and down, anything like that. Just floated across at a steady speed, no sound. I told my brother about it. He got up, and by the time he got to the window, he couldn't see it. And what happened was downstairs, the guys were horsing around, and somebody knocked somebody over in a chair or something, and Brian was sleeping in one of the bunks. He woke up and thought the guys were fighting. And he told them, hey, that's enough. Time for bed. Everybody stop drinking. It's bedtime. And grown-ass adults, and he sent them all to bed. So lights went out downstairs. Everybody ambled off the bed. And 15 minutes later, I'm still awake, looking out over the lake. I said to my brother, hey, there goes another one. And another orange floating globe, same thing. Just very bright fluorescent orange, exact same size, moving across the lake. This time my brother saw it. So he got up, looked out the window, saw it. There was a ladder going down to the main level of the camp. So he slid down the ladder, ran through the room full of guys sleeping downstairs, out the door, down to the lake and out onto the dock, and he watched this thing go off into the distance. And I didn't see it after it was in the window. I was too slow. When I got down to the lake, it was gone. But he did report this. He was talking to a friend of his, and the friend suggested that he report this to one of the Northern Ontario UFO sites or whatever, where everybody puts their sightings in and they track this. And I don't know. UFOs aren't my thing either, but we did see that night, and my brother did report it. So the mosquitoes outside right now are absolutely freaking terrible. I'm in shorts, and they are eating me alive, so I'm going to go in and see if I can find that report. I'm on the Northern Ontario UFO Research and Study page. We were back at Brian's cabin, and my brother was a part of this evening. He saw what I saw. And he was speaking with a friend of his after that night, and the friend told him that he should report it to this website. So I've gone back and found this. It took me a little bit. I couldn't remember. I knew he had posted it somewhere. This was his account. So I'm going to read this account. So this beginning part is, I guess, from the person who owns the website or who adds to the website. On July 17th, I received the following email after I had chatted with a friend of mine who said that 2 of his friends had seen something weird while camping near Temagami. So this is the email my brother sent. Hey, Sean asked me to shoot you an email with the description of a strange light my brother and I saw a few nights back. My brother and I and 5 other guys were camped on Rabbit Lake in Temagami on Saturday, July 14th, 2012. Okay, so I've got the date wrong. It was Saturday, July 14th. Just this weekend past. It was around 1 a.m. in the morning, and Gary and I were in the upper part of the cabin, laying in our bunks, one at each end of the cabin, near the windows due to the insufferable heat. Below us, 1 other guy was sleeping on the main floor, and the other 4 were drunk as skunks out on the main deck of the cabin. Gary and I were talking when he said, "Hey, what the hell is that strange orange light?" I couldn't see anything out my window, so I said, "I have no idea." He sat up and said, "That was really strange. A large, round, orange light just crossed the sky." He made his hands into a 6 to 8 inch circle and said, "That was pretty big." But before he could explain, a loud crash followed by several thumps echoed up to us. One of our drunk comrades on the deck had broken a chair and fallen over, while the owner of the cabin and father of one of the other guys, that's Brian, shot out of bed downstairs and was yelling for everyone to go to bed. He thought the boys had started fighting outside. It was absolute chaos. Brian, thought the kids were getting a little rowdy, and he told everybody to go to bed. So that's what happened. Anyway, when the shitstorm subsided, everyone was in bed 20 minutes later when Gary says, "There it is again." I immediately swung out of my bed and ran to his window. The cabin faces south over the bay, and to the left of us, a large hill lines the water. Crossing over the hill, I have no idea at what distance, was a solid orange light. Because I couldn't see it very well through the surrounding trees through the window, I ran to the ladder to the lower level and then hustled past all the sleepers on the main floor. I crossed the deck and went down the stairs to the ground and was able to locate the light and watch it for another 15 to 20 seconds before it disappeared from my sight. It was distant in my opinion, and certainly not the 6-inch sphere my brother had shown me with his hands. It was small, but closer than most planes that fly overhead. The funny thing was it was solid orange with no blinking lights and made no sound. It traveled at a slow but steady pace across the sky. Of course, the boys in the cabin wanted to know what I was smoking, but other than the 2 to 3 beers that evening, Gary and I were the only ones there, I would say, were sober. So not much to tell, but that's what I saw. I've included Gary on the email in case he can think of something I might have missed. The whole point of this movie is, guys, I'm trying to work up the courage because I think it would be a great adventure to go up there and show you guys this place and how spooky it is. I just don't think I can do it alone. If I can find somebody to go up there with me and you guys want to see it, let me know in the comments down below. I will try my darndest to work up the courage, and I have a guy in mind. I have a guy I think would enjoy going up there and checking it out, but so far I have no takers, and there's no way in hell I'm doing it alone.